Some people consider this system to be the black sheep in the Nintendo family, but it's not even close. Let's start out by talking about the positives and negatives of the Wii U. 1. Its semi-portability. Now, most all games can be played directly on the gamepad itself, and you don't even have to hook it up to a TV. Number 2. Its multi-generational library. The Wii U has one of the most robust libraries of any Nintendo system. You can play NES, SNES, Nintendo 64, Game Boy Advance, Nintendo DS, TurboGrafx-16 games, and even GameCube games if you so choose to hack your Wii U, which you should. It still amazes me that I can play Chibi Robo on the gamepad. It's also worth noting that the gamepad has a built-in sensor bar, so you can play your Wii games with a Wiimote, but none of the gamepad buttons work in this mode. At the time of this video, the eShop is still up and running on the Wii U, so you can still purchase software. Just don't go in expecting any doorbuster deals coming from Nintendo. They've all but abandoned this storefront. Number 3. The gamepad has a built-in universal TV remote. It's not a big deal, but it's the little things that go a long way with me. Number 4. The resistive touchscreen. Now this may be controversial, but I prefer the stylus and resistive style touchscreen on the Wii U over the Switch's capacitive screen. The resistive touchscreen gave games like Mario Maker faster and more precise control over the selection of objects when designing a level, and there were a handful of other applications that appealed to artists out there that were only made possible from this control scheme. And number 5, the UI. The user interface of the Wii U is my favorite out of any Nintendo system. It's warm, shiny, and inviting with its weird future tech reverb-laden music. Up top is Wara Wara Plaza, a place where random Miis would populate and share their reactions to the software icons that they were gathering around, giving a real sense of community to the Nintendo realm. Now, it's kinda dead because of the removal of the Mii-verse back in 2017, but believe me, it was really interesting to see how other gamers were reacting to the games I was playing. Down below are the applications. One thing I truly appreciate about the Wii U is how Nintendo used to allow you to create your own folders to organize your content. This feature is still missing on the Switch, which makes user organization practically non-existent. Bring folders back. Number 1, the gamepad battery. It lasts between 1 to 3 hours depending on the brightness and game you're playing. Number 2, the lack of internal memory. Now, depending on what model of Wii U you own, it will either have 8 or 32 gigabytes of internal storage. That's barely enough room to store game patches, let alone actual games. Number 3, no LAN port. Number 4, depreciated features and software. When I fired up my Wii U, it had so many broken applications. For example, the Animal Crossing Plaza was Mii-verse dependent, and now it no longer works. Same for Google Maps. Nintendo TV, gone. Which brings me to my biggest gripe of all. Number 5, the shutdown of Mii-verse. Shutting down Mii-verse was a huge problem to the Wii U ecosystem. If you don't know, Mii-verse was integrated into most Wii U games. Usually, the games would prompt the player to make a Mii-verse post to share your thoughts or tips with other players within the game. Some games would also reward the player for getting achievements with Mii-verse stamps that you could use in your posts. Almost every Wii U game had some sort of Mii-verse integration. Take for instance The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD here. You used to be able to send other players random messages in a bottle, but now if you try to use the Tingle bottle, it's like, congratulations, here's a sad reminder of the Mii-verse's closure. Well, instead of complaining about all these issues, I decided to see how many modern solutions there were to my problems with the Wii U. Let's start with the gamepad battery. I went on iFixit.com and purchased a 3600 milliamp battery for $17. Thankfully, replacing the battery is a simple swap. All you need is a small Phillips head screwdriver to remove the 2 screws on the back of the gamepad, then you pop off the cover. From here, wiggle out this battery cable, and it's out. Let's compare my old battery to the new one. The stock Gamepad battery is only 1500 milliamps, and brand new, it will average around 5 hours of playtime. But with mine, I'm lucky to get 2. The iFixit battery is 3600 milliamps and can easily get 6 to 10 hours of playtime depending on the game and the brightness of the gamepad. This battery both dwarfs the stock in capacity and size, but don't worry, Nintendo planned ahead and left you plenty of space for it. It just pops in. Just connect the battery cable to the terminal, close the lid, tighten the screws, and you're done. Problem solved. Now on to the storage problem. Although you can't change out the internal memory of the Wii U, thankfully you have 2 other options in this area. On the front, you can pop in an SD card up to 32 gigabytes in size. Option 2, you can purchase most any old USB hard drive up to 2 terabytes in size. If you purchase a lot of digital content or intend on modding your Wii U in the future, this is a highly recommended upgrade. You should have no problem filling up the majority of the library onto one drive. Let's tackle the LAN issue. You can go online and purchase any old USB to LAN adapter for around $10. I bought this one to play Monster Hunter 3 online with a friend so I could get the best possible connection. You just plug it into an empty USB port and then plug in your Ethernet cable. Then you go into settings, internet, switch it over to LAN, and you're good to go. Now this isn't ultra scientific, but I did watch some YouTube videos on this subject, and most users who had a LAN adapter were able to get an extra 10 to 12 megabits per second versus the Wi-Fi option. Now this is not a life or death thing, but it does make downloading updates go by faster, and you may be able to eke out an advantage in a Splatoon match. For $10, it's worth a shot. And finally, let's address the Mii-verse elephant in the room. In August of 2017, Nintendo pulled the plug on the Mii-verse, which sent ripples across every piece of software on the Wii U. This dick move also affected some games in a detrimental way, such as Art Academy Home Studio. Now I was nearing the conclusion of my learn to draw a tomato lesson when the game suddenly froze. Frustrated but not thinking much of it, I quit out and started a new project from scratch. Well, in the middle of making this masterpiece, the game froze again. So I turned to the internet and found that Nintendo created a support page for this particular problem. Now, instead of patching the software to address this problem, Nintendo decided to make the user go into the parental settings of the Wii U and disable the Mii-verse. Otherwise, Art Academy will continue to keep freezing forever. But that's just a temporary solution in my mind. Let's look at something more long-term. This project is known as the Pretendo network. It's a free and open source replacement for Nintendo's Mii-verse for both the 3DS and the Wii U. It's currently a work in progress and has a long way to go, but the aim here is to restore the Mii-verse and associated features found within the games on the Wii U. This project is a large undertaking, but an important one in order to preserve the legacy of the Wii U. So far, the Pretendo network team have managed to create a homebrew mock-up of the Mii-verse that you can mess around with, that is if you have a modded Wii U with the homebrew channel. Currently, there's no ETA on the completion of the Pretendo network, but the proof of concept videos they have shared on their channel look very promising. For example, the team somehow managed to figure out how to inject Splatfest back into Splatoon, which were discontinued many years ago. There's no ETA on the completion of the Pretendo network, but if you do want to follow the project, you can visit their website at pretendo.network. I sure hope they complete this project one day, so a whole new generation of gamers can experience the beauty of the Mii-verse. Let's get into some accessories for the Wii U. This is the Wii U Pro controller. It's a more traditional dual-stick analog controller, which has a more comfortable grip than the gamepad, and a very impressive battery life, boasting up to 80 hours in between charges. Keep in mind, not all games support it, as many big titles were designed around the unique features of the gamepad. This is known as the Wii Fit Balance Board, which is only compatible with one Wii U game, Wii Fit U. That game was bundled with another unique accessory, the Wii Fit Meter. You can tell they just used the same mold as the Pokewalker. The Wii Fit Meter is essentially a pedometer. It tracks your steps, the altitude, your calories burned, the time, and the temperature. The Fit Meter communicates with the Wii U through the Gamepad's IR sensor on the top. You hold a button and it dumps all your steps into the Wii Fit U game, which is used to complete in-game challenges. Check it out, I unlocked this Statue of Liberty shirt. Hooray. As for Wii Fit U itself, it doesn't provide much other incentive to check back in with the game, as the fitness games themselves aren't that intense, interesting, or fun to want to come back and play the game again. It's a cute little footnote in the annals of Nintendo history, but ultimately I'd mark it down as gaming with grandma tier. It's not worth your time. Last but certainly not least, amiibos. I know, they're essentially plastic models with NFC tags in the bottom that are used to unlock meaningless content within video games. In a nutshell, they're physical DLC, but in my own defense, some of them look kind of cool, and in the case of amiibos, I still have the option of reselling them down the line. Side note, I always feel like Master Hand from Smash Brothers when I pick one of these up. Amiibos are still in production, but their appeal to me has faded over time, mainly because Nintendo never developed an amiibo exclusive game, unless you count Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival, which I know none of you do. If you're looking to unlock amiibo-centric content on your Wii U games, try to avoid paying the overinflated aftermarket prices for these. You can just go online and buy counterfeit amiibo cards or tokens that do pretty much the same thing. Overall, none of the extra content is ever really worth it in the first place, so you won't be missing out on much. Alright, without further interruption, let's celebrate and talk some games. This is Art Academy Home Studio, a digital exclusive for the Wii U. This series was made famous on the DS, but its Wii U representation was truly something special. You utilize the Gamepad as a canvas. You can draw with pencils, charcoal pastels, and paintbrushes. This gameplay was made possible due to the use of stylus controls, and that's likely why you haven't seen a follow-up game in this series on the Nintendo Switch. Art Academy Home Studio is one of my most enjoyed Wii U games, even though I'm not any good at art. But thanks to the in-game lessons, I'm getting a little bit better. The tutorials do a fantastic job of breaking down each individual step by giving clear demonstrations of each individual component of the piece of art you're trying to make, accompanied by very relaxing music. The best current feature of the game is that once you're done with creating, you can then edit a time-lapse video of your creation and either upload it directly to YouTube from the game or save the video on an SD card. I was shocked to see the game had saved the entire duration of my sketches. You should probably pick up an SD card if you're gonna do this. Believe it or not, Art Academy Home Studio used to be a killer app for the Wii U because it allowed you to post your creations directly to the Mii-verse in full color using all the tools available to you in the software. With Art Academy's colors and tools, it gave you a major upgrade over the standard black and white Mii-verse posts. This feature inspired some amazing artwork that I used to spend hours combing through. But alas, most of that work is lost to time. Finally, you can display your creations in your in-home art gallery. The game shifts to a first-person perspective where you can roam the home studio to get a closer look at the finer details of your work. I hope the Art Academy series doesn't remain a dead franchise, and Nintendo finds a way to revive it with stylus support in the future. Originally announced in 2013 under the title Yarn Yoshi, Yoshi's Woolly World was released in late 2015. At the time of this video, it's yet to be ported to the Switch, but it did receive a port on the 3DS under the title Poochie and Yoshi's Woolly World. Created by the team at Goodfeel, who brought you Kirby's Epic Yarn, Woolly World stars Yarn Yoshi, who's on a quest to save his friends who were turned into bundles of string by the evil Kamek. Now, if you've played any title in the Yoshi catalog, then you know what to expect here. Yoshi still has all of his signature moves, his flutter jump, his spring hog ground pound, and he still does that thing where he swallows his enemies whole and then shits them out as an egg to use them as ammo. I mean, is it shitting or is it birthing? They don't really clarify this matter much, but if you just turn your brain off and don't focus on the digestive tract of the Yoshi dinosaurs, then you'll have a good time. It's a relatively simple game that doesn't demand too much from the player or change up the formula. It's Yoshi made of string, hopping around a level made of handmade crafts. That's all it needed to be. In each level, you can find either flowers or bundles of yarn, and if you collect all these bundles, you unlock a brand new Yoshi, and there's a ton to collect.
This melon one here is my favorite.
The game is also compatible with a lot of amiibo, which are used to unlock patterns themed after the amiibo you scanned. You can also scan in the unique Yarn Yoshi amiibo to summon a second Yoshi during gameplay that mirrors your movements. And I would not recommend doing this because the camera has trouble deciding which Yoshi it wants to focus on, and this caused me to lose track of which Yoshi I was actively playing as. For example, I go through this screen as the watermelon Yoshi, and then I come out the other screen as the green Yoshi. When I try and make a left, it switches back to the green Yoshi. It's frustrating to say the least. Overall, Yarn Yoshi is one of those games I can turn on when I need something to put me in a good mood. It's aesthetically pleasing to look at, the soundtrack is composed by happy Japanese dudes just plucking away at their guitars, and it's just simply fun. This is Mario Maker, and as the title implies, that's the aim. Now, I'm sure most of you are familiar with the concept, so I'm not going to waste too much time here. It's made by some of the original developers that brought you Mario Paint. You'll be noticing a lot of the same UI elements and characters crop up from time to time. They even put in an Easter egg where you can play the original fly swatting game from Mario Paint. There's a sequel out on the Switch, but personally, I prefer the Wii U and 3DS versions because the stylus control allows for faster designing. A feature that's still exclusive to the first Mario Maker are the mystery mushroom costumes. These are unique sprites that Mario can transform into if you're playing a Mario 1 course. There's over 150 characters to unlock. For the most part, they all function pretty much the same as Big Mario, but they come equipped with unique animations, taunts, and sometimes new flagpole music. Now, you can unlock these costumes in a variety of ways. The easiest is by scanning in an amiibo, which unlocks it instantly. You can play the 100 Mario challenge levels, where you get a chance to unlock a random costume. And finally, there still exist downloadable event levels, where if you complete them, you'll unlock a unique costume. I really enjoyed some of these levels, as they were often loyal to the source material they were referencing. Well, as close as you can be with the Super Mario Bros. 1 engine. They even have a level designed by the Cacho himself, Arno from Game Center CX. Now that's cool. Unfortunately, you can no longer upload your own custom courses to the course world. They shut down that feature 5 years into Mario Maker's life, which is an extremely shitty thing for Nintendo to do, considering that's kind of the whole point of the game. Regardless, you can still download some of the levels that were already uploaded to the course world before the service stopped. But if you have any interest in checking out these levels or the event levels, you never know when they're gonna take those away too, so you better download them while you can.
Let's go!
Announced in 2008 and pushed until late 2013, Pikmin 3 was my reason for buying a Wii U. You take these 3 space captains to a scouting mission on a faraway planet in search of fruit to bring back to their home. With the help of the lovable but expendable Pikmin species, you venture through hostile alien habitats to gather fruit to make delicious juice. The Pikmin series is a blend of many genres. It's an action meets real-time strategy game with an emphasis on exploration and puzzle solving. Daylight is always burning, and due to hostile species, it's too dangerous to explore at night. So you have to budget what you can actually accomplish within a day's time. Your ultimate goal may be collect the aforementioned juice, but it's in the doing where the game happens. As the captain, you throw your Pikmin at objects to assign them to a task. You can throw them at walls to have them knock them down to make a new path, or throw them at objects to carry back to the ship. Keep in mind, each object has its own weight to it, so you will need a certain amount of Pikmin in order to lift it. Little by little, the game starts to introduce more layers to the gameplay, and veterans of the Pikmin series will tell you that there's more complexity to the game than what's on the beautiful surface. Each of the space captains have their own personality and perspective on the events in the story. One thing I always look forward to is how the captains assign names to the objects they encounter on the alien planet. For example, they refer to lemons as face wrinklers. Pikmin 3 allows for more ways to delegate your tasks than ever before, as you can now hot switch between the 3 space captains and their own squads of Pikmin. This opens up a lot more efficient ways for you to spend your time during a day. As of October of 2020, this is no longer an exclusive title to the Wii U with the release of Pikmin 3 Deluxe on the Nintendo Switch, which includes all the DLC, added better quality of life features, and improved performance. But it did omit some of the Gamepad specific features in this conversion. You can easily tell that the Wii U was still a critical part of this game's design, because the characters are constantly using this thing called a cop pad within the game. On the Wii U version, anything involving the cop pad would be beamed to the gamepad. It would provide you with a map to look down at any time without the need to switch a screen. Scrolling through the map on the gamepad would also give you a top-down perspective of the world you were exploring, giving you a look at the finer details. This overhead perspective was removed in the Switch version. There's something about the way they use the gamepad that gives it that extra layer of immersion that's missing on the Switch version. Here, the gamepad feels like you're using a piece of alien technology, which makes you feel more included in the world of Pikmin 3. It might be just a matter of personal preference, but the gamepad just adds that little extra something that you can't get anywhere else. What's your favorite way to play Pikmin 3? Fatal Frame, Maiden of Blackwater, is the 5th entry in the iconic survival horror franchise. It was only released digitally on the eShop in North America for $50, whilst the rest of the world got a physical edition with cool shit included for the same price. The game sticks to the Fatal Frame formula closely. You take a protagonist, give them a magic ghost hunting camera, and let them loose in a haunted place. If you're a newcomer to this series, don't worry, Maiden of Blackwater is mostly a standalone story. It's a gorgeous game, and I do want to qualify that statement by saying, "For a Wii U title." Tecmo made spectacular settings, which range from terrifying desolate villages located in a fog-laden mountain forest to a quaint coffee shop at dusk, located at the base of said spooky mountain. You'll spend some time in the coffee shop to put your mind at ease before you venture back up to the mountain ghost town, where all of these gruesome murders are taking place. Don't you love it when horror games juxtapose settings effectively? What sets this entry apart is the unique implementation of the gamepad to control the camera obscura. Using the built-in gyroscope, the player can have finer control over the framing of the ghosts in battle to deliver more accurate and fatal shots. At first, I was having some trouble getting used to switching between the third and first person cameras, but after a couple of hours of playtime, I got used to them. And I couldn't imagine the series going back to the analog controls after this one. The gamepad is truly something special, and it felt like the perfect match for making the battles of Fatal Frame more engaging. Like the previous entries, there are hidden one-time only ghost shots to capture for extra points. You have to be quick on the draw to capture them. All the ghost encounters earn you points, which you can then spend on camera upgrades and healing items in between chapters, adding a light RPG element to the experience. Unique to Fatal Frame 5, there is now a wetness mechanic, which makes your protagonist more powerful the wetter they get. It could be said that this mechanic was implemented because Tecmo loves the boobs, but in their defense, it is also thematic with the story, as there once was a maiden that was sent to a watery grave during a ritual. Who am I kidding? They did it for the titty. I should also mention the Western version of FFV was toned down significantly compared to the Japanese original. Costumes were altered to be less gratuitous, and if that's a deal breaker for you, well, there does exist a way to put them back into the Western release through an uncensored patch if you have a modded Wii U. Personally, I didn't have enough patience to read through this and apply the patch myself, but in case you're interested, here's a link. It took me many years to finally dive into Maiden of Blackwater, and I regret not checking it out sooner. It's a solid game that has an immensely satisfying battle system and some great unlockables if you stick it through to the end. Zombie U was a launch title for the Wii U, and the first survival horror game on the system. Emphasis on the survival aspect, as it's by far one of the most difficult games on the platform, which may turn some players away. Even though it has been ported to every system under the sun now, the Wii U version is by far the definitive way to play this game, as the hooks were designed around the gamepad. Zombie U has you playing as a randomized character during a zombie apocalypse holding up in a London train station. As the survivor, you follow orders from a mysterious man called the Prepper, who acts as a guide to the zombie apocalypse.
In the tube. Don't just stand there groping. Hurry!
This is a hardcore roguelike zombie survival game with a brutal permadeath system in place. If you die, you spawn as a brand new character, and you have to seek out your old character's zombie and defeat them to get your items back. The zombies in this game are brutal. They do heavy damage to your character and have a chance at one hit killing you at any time. Starting out, you're only equipped with a cricket bat a la Shaun of the Dead, but the zombies here take tons of hits before they go down. They'll be missing big chunks of their head before you finally land the finishing blow. Each zombie encounter is extremely intense, so in a way, the game encourages you to minimize zombie encounters whenever possible. To survive in this game, you need to approach every area with caution, and this is where the gamepad comes in. The prepper gives your character a scanner, aka the gamepad. Most of the time, it acts as a map of the area. You can press a button to send out a ping which highlights all the zombies on the map as red dots. You also get an option to use the gamepad as a scanner. Using the gamepad gyroscope, you can look at areas right in front of you and tag any visible zombies to make them slightly more visible. You can also scan the area for items or other points of interest. All the gamepad features are designed to split your attention away from the TV, which makes basic actions like organizing your inventory a tad more tense than usual. Zombies are always roaming in and out of the map, so that split second where the game draws your attention to the gamepad could be a matter of life or death. The unforgiving nature of the Zombie U experience is what sets it apart from the rest of the games in the otherwise kid-friendly library of the Wii U. It's a shame that Ubisoft abandoned any exclusivity deals with Nintendo shortly after it launched. As a consequence, they never made a sequel to Zombie U to expand upon these already interesting gamepad mechanics to refine them even further into something special. If you're looking for a challenging game that takes advantage of nearly all the features of the gamepad, you can easily pick up Zombie U for under $10. It's worth checking out the Wii U version even if you've played some of the other ports. This is Pushmo World, the third game in the Pushmo quadrilogy. Pushmo is a highly addictive puzzle platformer starring Mallow. He's a half marshmallow, half sumo wrestler. He's on a mission to save all the children who have been trapped in these bizarre contraptions known as Pushmos. In a nutshell, a Pushmo is a three-dimensional puzzle comprised of multiple layers. Here's how it works. Mallow can either push or pull one layer of a Pushmo in order to use it as a platform to get to the top of the Pushmo and rescue the child. There are certain rules in place. Mallow can only hop one block at a time, and he cannot pull a block to an edge which would push him off and make him fall. Gradually, the puzzles go from stupidly simple structures that take a minute to scale to giant Pushmos comprised of multiple layers and warp pipes. Don't let the kid-friendly presentation fool you here. There's a lot of head scratchers in this one. I'm really thankful they included a rewind feature, so I don't have to worry about losing too much progress from a missed jump. Also included is a Pushmo builder, so you can make your own custom courses and share them with your family members and no one else, since the Mii-verse features are now closed. Family meeting, come look at my Pushmo. This game just doesn't get enough love, and it's certainly not going to make anyone's top 10 Wii U games, but it has that just one more quality to it that all great puzzle games should. And for $10, Pushmo World has a lot of great value to it, with lots of puzzles and a full-on Pushmo creator. If you're interested in this at all, you should download it before they close the eShop on the Wii U. And then check out the other games in the Pushmo series. They're just as fun. Released in 2015, Splatoon marks the last great original IP Nintendo had made in decades. For a company that typically rests on the laurels of the same few franchises, it was an enormous breath of fresh air when Splatoon hit the Wii U. In Splatoon, you play as an Inkling. It's a humanoid creature that can turn into a squid. Simply put, Splatoon is a third-person shooter, except the objective is focused more on capturing turf. You do this by using your Super Soaker guns, paint rollers, and other neat contraptions to spread your color of paint all over a field to claim the territory. You can also transform into your squid self and travel through your color of paint. Doing this allows you to move across the map faster and refill your paint. So even if you're new to the game, you can still contribute to your team by just focusing on laying down as much paint as possible before the end of the match, and potentially squeezing out a victory victory for your team. At the end of the round, you get experience points, which will either unlock a perk for your equipment or level up your character. You can then spend points in one of the shops and buy new equipment. There's level caps on the equipment, so you have to level up in order to unlock new gear. Many people neglect to mention this, but Splatoon contains a very robust single-player campaign in there too. It's a 3D action platformer, think in the vein of Super Mario Sunshine, only the antithesis since you're spreading paint instead of cleaning it up. And instead of collecting shine sprites, you collect these things called Zapfish. You travel across many different worlds within Octo Valley, traversing platforms with your squid powers and hunting down the rival Octolings. If you want to learn the fundamentals of the gameplay and take a deep dive into the lore of the Inklings and Octolings, then the single player does a great job in prepping you on everything you need to know about the world of Splatoon. There's large-scale boss fights and beautiful scenery to explore. This is still exclusive to the console, and thankfully Nintendo hasn't shut down the online servers. So if you want to experience the online mode, then you better try it out while you can. Released in mid-2013, Game & Wario carries on the simple game tradition of the Game & Watch series from which it derived its namesake. Developed by Nintendo's infamous software planning and development team, who are known for making games that could be best described as tech demos for the system they're working on. And that pretty much describes the birth of Game & Wario. It started off as a tech demo to utilize all the Gamepad's features, and then spun off into a fully fledged game later on. There are 16 total games packed away into this compilation, 12 single player and 4 multiplayer. These games are a bit meatier than the split-second micro games fans of the series would come to expect. For time's sake, I'm not going to cover every game in this compilation, just my favorites. You start each game by popping a Famicom-like cartridge into a system, and then you are treated with an exaggerated hand-drawn title card of the game you're playing. I love these. Arrow. In this game, you shoot oncoming robot enemies that are trying to rob Wario of all of his strawberries. You hold the gamepad in a vertical position and sling back an arrow to launch at oncoming waves. The waves get faster and more enemy types appear on the map the further you progress, culminating into a boss fight with a Wario tank. This gets very hardcore in the later levels, so challenge yourself by checking them out. Shutter. You take the role as photojournalist Mona and are tasked with snapping photos of subjects in the middle of large crowds and other chaotic events. Here, the gamepad operates as a camera. Mona is given a lineup of suspects down below. You have to take a photo of each one of the suspects before you run out of time or film. Each level introduces a new twist to the formula. In one level, you're trying to find invisible ghosts in the background. In another, you're trying to find your targets in the middle of a musical. It's not as easy as it sounds, as you're graded on the size of your subject and if they're facing the camera. Having an eagle eye and steady hands will help you get the full 100.
Come on. Good.
Gamer. This is probably the most well-known game in the compilation. It's presented as a meta game within a game, where you play as 9-Volt, a child just trying to sneak in some gaming way after his bedtime. On the gamepad, the player has to finish a series of microgames before 9-Volt falls asleep. But it's not that simple, as his mom is on the prowl to put his ass to bed, and if you're busted, it's game over. To maximize the game time, the player must hide beneath the covers when they suspect mom is gonna pop out. But hiding beneath the covers drains 9Volt's consciousness, so you can't hide forever. His mom is serious about putting him to sleep, and sometimes she'll bust through windows and even jump out of the television to ensure that he gets his beauty rest. This is one of the most nerve-wracking experiences, as you constantly have to switch your attention between the gamepad and your own television to make sure mom doesn't catch you. They will throw so many false alarms and play suspenseful music to get you to look back up at the TV, and the game gets more intense with each new level, so make sure you try them all out. Gamer is the crowning achievement of the Wii U. It truly peaked with this. I should also mention that completing challenges within the mini-games nets the player medals, which you can spend on one of the 240 capsule toys, which are agonizingly shout out by this chicken. Inside the capsules are one of the many bizarre prizes that take advantage of the gamepad in some uniquely disturbing way. I live for these.
Oh? I'm W Man. I didn't expect the phone to ring. It really freaked me out. I farted. It was a real buttbuster. You should be more considerate. Smell you later.
On to the multiplayer games. First up is Island. Here you take turns using the gamepad to launch these creatures called Francs in an Angry Birds kind of fashion. Each player is designated a color, and your goal is to collect as many points before the end of the game. You do this by landing your color in the highest yielding point zone. Now there's a lot going on here. For one, your platform could shift due to the weight of the Francs, causing some of the Francs to fall off the island and drown. If you hit this disc over here, it will sweep around the island, knocking Francs off and then assigning a multiplier to the space it lands in. And to top off all this madness, a seagull will randomly fly in and either steal Francs or shit one out to turn the tables of the game. This one is wildly unpredictable but packed with laughs. Sketch. This one probably has the most mass appeal. The goal of the game is to draw whatever the game prompts you to sketch, so other players in the room can shout out the answer. You want to draw something that accurately represents your object as quickly as possible before you run out of time. The more sketches you get through, the bigger your score. At the end of the game, your party is treated to a stroll through an art gallery of your shitty drawings. This is awesome. And finally, there's Fruit, a personal favorite of mine. One player holds the gamepad and assumes the role of a fruit thief, whilst the other players are tasked with being agents trying to catch the thief. As the thief, it's your goal to snatch all the fruit on the game map without being detected by the agents. You do this by blending in with the many other characters on the screen. Discretion is key here, as you do not want any of the agents to pick you out from the crowd or recognize your facial features or clothing. You want to try to mimic the random movements of the AI and use the level's features to your advantage to remain undetected. Ever so often, the game will issue a hint to the agents with a snapshot of the general area where the thief resides. At the end of the round, it's up to the agents to pick out the thief from a lineup of suspects, and if they guess correctly, the thief loses. What can I say? This is one of those experiences that's better appreciated when you've tried it out at a party. Gather some people, try out Fruit, and thank me later. I have a soft spot for the weirdness of the WarioWare series, and it's rare for Nintendo to give a team creative liberty to do whatever they want. While the Mario series pushes for more traditional games with rigid formats, the Wario series refuses to be placed into any one particular mold. Game & Wario captures the essence of the golden years of gaming, when budgets were limited but concepts were plentiful. It comes with my highest recommendation. Hey Hey everyone, Hikiko here. I just want to thank you for watching this Wii U focused video. There's so many great games for the Wii U that I couldn't possibly cover them all in one video, but if there's enough demand in the comments below, maybe I might make a part 2. If you enjoy system focused videos, then check out the playlist I've provided below. And if you wish, you can support the channel on Patreon or become a channel member. All your support is greatly appreciated and it all goes back into the channel. Anyways, it's great to be back and I'll see you all next time.